Hello, readers. This is Justin's 52 Books, where I discuss my selections for the 52 Book Club's 2022 Reading Challenge. Every year, the 52 Book Club puts out a reading challenge where they put out a bunch of descriptions, 52 of them, and it's up to the readers to match up books to those descriptions. Those descriptions are called prompts, and this week is week 11. I'm talking about prompt 33, a book that has a bilingual character. The book I chose for this was Termination Shock by Neal Stephenson, and that was put out just last year in 2021. I kind of hijacked this prompt from its intended purposes of highlighting multi-language characters. There are certainly many multi-language people in the book. I have a Dutch queen who speaks Dutch and English. I have a Canadian Sikh who speaks Punjabi and English and presumably French, since he's Canadian. But when the prompt applies to 11 other books that I have in my selection for the 52, at least at this point, that's about 20%, and kind of depending on if dog is a language and if the language of hell counts, but it's 20% of the book, so I figure that the prompt is a little wide open for filling in with one of my was gonna read anyway books. And that's this, Termination Shock by Neal Stephenson. It's a book about geoengineering and feral pigs and hydrogen planes and underwater explosions and falconry and Moby Dick and euphemisms and sulfur and Texas truck stops and the line of actual control between India and China and drones and Venice and stick fighting as performative war and what happens when you stop geoengineering and on and on. If you've read Neal Stephenson, you understand what you're getting into before you start reading. It's info dump interlaced with narrative. For those of you who are not familiar with Neal Stephenson, I'd like to introduce him with two words. Meth gator. I'm going to say it again, meth gator. Neal Stephenson is an author who can take a concept like meth gator and explain it in a way that not only seems possible, but actually kind of makes it seem probable. At the beginning of the book, meth gator is just kind of a throwaway idea to kind of make a set piece, a setting, and it kind of makes sense if as you read it. Drug dealers working in the bio, they have product that they dump into a storm system. The storm system takes it to the bio, and all of a sudden you have meth addicted gators. As scary as that sounds, but that's the kind of idea that's just in awe the entire book. I didn't like everything about it. The character Rufus, he reminded me of Neal Stephenson's penchant for taking, gruff individualists with, common sense, roughnecks, and having them be the smartest guy in the room sometimes. Any other book like that Stephenson has done, they're usually named Shafto, but this time it was called Rufus. And in other instances, I've seen them, gruff old Navy chiefs who just get the job done and don't need a whole lot of schooling and don't need a whole lot of rules. I was in the Navy for 5 years, and for every guy like that, there are a couple of them, there's 20 that fail up. And I feel like life is like that as well. And Rufus kind of reminded me of that. Another observation, there's no real villain in the book. There's people and groups and nations and states, and they are all working to their own self-interest. But there's no evil scheme, and I figured, with the subject matter of the book, with geoengineering and these worldwide scales, that could have been a motivation, but it's not there, and that leads to more realistic motivations. I also think that that's why Stevenson's writing can be seen as apologetic to libertines, and thus kind of that he may have libertarian sympathies. I don't think of Neal Stephenson as a libertarian in the Tea Party sense. And if you disagree with me, go ahead and Google Neal Stephenson sucking down the biomass and then quiet. However, I don't feel like he has true blue progressive sympathies either, which kind of is part and parcel for being a science fiction writer sometimes. It's weird to think of this guy who just wrote a book about a billionaire going it alone on a geoengineering project, that he used to work for Jeff Bezos in Blue Origin as an advisor. And I love him, but I often wonder what Neal and old Jeff talked about back in his Blue Origin days. Summing up, when I heard Neal Stephenson was putting out a geoengineering book, I immediately thought of Kim Stanley Robinson, like most science fiction fans, and was a little worried about turf war and nerd fight. But I'm always glad to have more Stephenson. In the world of psycho science fiction fandom, people always bitch and complain about new anything. I think they've been doing it. They've been trashing the last 3 books Neal Stephenson wrote, but I'll always give him the benefit of the doubt. Don't love everything he does, but he's earned my appreciation and could probably be considered my favorite working writer. Termination Shock is a good book and probably a pretty good jumping on point for someone who was interested in finding out more about Stephenson's work but didn't want to read about metaverse samurais and gravitational decay, nuo cryptocurrency, and whatever the hell Anathem was about. Or the entire 17th and 18th centuries, the whole 200 years. Go ahead, start here. It's probably as accessible as Neal Stephenson's gonna get. And that's it for my conversation about Termination Shock by Neal Stephenson. This has been week 11 of Justin's 52 Books, and I was talking about Prompt 33, a book with a bilingual character. For more information on the 52 Book Club, you can check them out at their website, the52bookclub.com. You can also check them out on Goodreads and Facebook. You can also check me out on Goodreads and Storygraph at Justin's 52 Books. Hope to see you next week with Prompt 36, a book recommended by my favorite author. And guess what? It's a book recommended by Neal Stephenson, the author I was just talking about. That's it. Thanks for watching. Happy reading.